I was 72 when the bombs found my street. That is not how the news would say it. The news would say Tehran was struck before dawn, but dawn did not see me. The bombs came while the sky was still black, while I was still dreaming of my husband's hands, still hearing the kettle sing in my sleep. The first explosion sounded like the sky tearing open. At first, I thought it was thunder. Old people always think noises belong to weather. We trust the sky more than men. I reached for the lamp beside my bed, and before my fingers touched the switch, the second blast came. This one shook the walls. Dust fell into my hair. My wardrobe groaned like an old animal in pain. I sat up and whispered my son's name. Not loudly, just the way a mother does when she is afraid to wake a child. Reza. Then I remembered. Reza did not live with me anymore. My son lived 3 neighborhoods away with his wife and their children. He had begged me to come stay with them months ago. Mother, if anything happens, you will be alone. And I had said, I have lived alone since your father died. Do not turn me into a child. Now the house answered me with silence. Another explosion rolled through the city. Windows somewhere shattered. Dogs began barking in panic. I wrapped my shawl around my shoulders, even though it was warm. Fear makes you feel cold, even when fire is falling from the sky. I shuffled to the hallway and opened the front door just a crack. The night smelled wrong, like burning metal, like smoke mixed with dust and something bitter that burned the back of my throat. Neighbors were already shouting. I heard a woman crying, a man swearing, children screaming for their mothers. Somewhere a car alarm wailed endlessly, as if it did not know the world had ended. Then my phone rang. Reza's name filled the screen. I answered before the second ring. Mother, he said, and I could hear traffic and shouting behind his voice. Are you hurt? I am here, I said. I am standing. There was a pause, just long enough for another blast to thunder in the distance. We are leaving, he said. They are saying the roads will close. I must take the children. We will go south to your sister's village. Come get me, I said. I did not shout. I did not cry. I said it the way I said bring bread or buy sugar, like it was an easy thing. He did not answer right away. In that pause, I understood something before he said it. Mother, his voice broke just a little. The streets are blocked. It is chaos. I can't reach your area. The children are crying. I will come back for you when it is safe. I promise. Another explosion boomed, so close that the ceiling light flickered. I will wait, I said. That is what mothers say. I will wait, even when waiting feels like standing on a cliff. The call ended. I stood in the hallway, holding the phone in both hands like it was a piece of him. The house creaked as if it were breathing. Dust slid from the corners of the ceiling. A picture frame of my husband tipped crooked on the wall. I told myself this was only for a few hours, just until the roads opened, just until my son came back. I did not pack a bag. I did not take food. I did not even change my clothes. I went to the basement. It was a narrow concrete room beneath the kitchen. My husband had built it years ago, saying, if an earthquake comes, we will go here. He never imagined bombs. Men build for shaking earth, not falling fire. I carried a small blanket and a flashlight. When the next explosion hit, the stairs vibrated beneath my feet. Something crashed upstairs, maybe a plate, maybe a cupboard door. I did not go to look. I closed the basement door and locked it from the inside. The dark felt thick, like it had weight. I sat on the floor and pressed my back against the wall. The concrete was cold through my clothes. My knees ached. I pulled the blanket around me and listened. Jets screamed overhead. Not like birds, like monsters dragging knives across the sky. Every time I heard them, my body prepared to die. I counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3. I whispered prayers I had not said in years. I spoke to my husband's memory as if he could hear me. "Do you see this?" I asked him. Our house is shaking again. Hours passed, or minutes. Time does strange things when you are afraid. It stretches and shrinks like dough under rough hands. My stomach growled. I had not eaten since the night before. I imagined the kitchen upstairs, the bread on the counter, the pot of soup I had made for lunch. I could see it in my mind like a photograph. Another blast shook the basement door. I covered my ears, not because of the sound, but because of what came after: the silence. The silence was worse. It felt like the city was holding its breath, waiting to see who would still be alive. I wondered if my son's car had made it through. I wondered if his children were crying for me. I wondered if my house would still be standing when I opened the door again. I did not open it, because what if it wasn't? The second day began without light. There were no windows in the basement, only darkness and the smell of damp concrete. My mouth felt dry. My tongue stuck to my teeth. I pressed my palm to the wall and felt it trembling faintly, like a heart under skin. I talked out loud so I would not disappear into the silence. "I am still here," I said. "I am still here." My voice sounded small. Jets roared again, this time closer. So close I could hear the tearing sound before the explosion came. The house jolted violently. Something heavy fell upstairs and did not stop falling for a long time. I screamed my son's name into the dark. No one answered. I imagined the headlines: elderly woman found alone in ruined home. Or worse, no headline at all. By the third day, my body felt light, like it was floating away from me. My legs cramped when I tried to stand. My lips were cracked. I pressed my tongue against the air and tasted dust. The bombing had slowed. Not stopped. Slowed. That was somehow more frightening. I told myself, if the house collapses, it will be fast. I told myself, you lived a long life. I told myself, do not be afraid. But fear is not something you can command like a child. It crawled inside me and whispered, you will die here. No one will know. You will become a story no one finishes. I leaned my head against the wall and closed my eyes. And then, I heard footsteps above me. Not jets, not explosions. Footsteps. Slow, careful. And a voice I had not heard in 3 days called my name. Mother. At first, I thought the voice was inside my head. Hunger makes sounds. Fear makes echoes. Loneliness invents people. I pressed my ear to the basement door. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my throat. Mother, the voice said again, closer now. This time I knew it was real. I tried to stand, but my legs folded like wet paper. Pain shot up my knees. I grabbed the wall and pulled myself upright, inch by inch, like a child learning to walk again. My son, I whispered. My voice came out broken, as if it had rusted from disuse. The handle of the basement door rattled. I am here, I said louder. I am here. The door opened slowly, and light poured in so suddenly that it hurt my eyes. I raised my hand to shield my face. It was not my son. It was my neighbor, Farhad, a thin man with trembling hands and a face gray with dust. Behind him stood 2 other men, shapes in the ruined kitchen. There you are, he said. His voice cracked. We thought the house was empty. I tried to speak, but only air came out. Farhad stepped forward and knelt in front of me. You have been here the whole time? 3 days, I said. The words felt heavy. I think. He helped me up. When I stood, the world tilted. I saw the kitchen behind him. My kitchen, broken open like a wound. The window was gone. Glass covered the floor like frozen rain. One wall was black with smoke. The cupboard doors hung crooked, and my soup pot lay spilled and dry on the tiles. It hid nearby, Farhad said. The house held. I nodded. But my eyes had already found what I feared most. The photograph of my husband had fallen from the wall. The glass was shattered. I bent slowly and picked it up. His face was split by a crack that ran straight through his smile. I told him not to hang it there, I murmured. Farhad put a hand on my shoulder. We must leave. The jets may come again. Where? I asked. He hesitated. There is a shelter 2 streets away. If the road is open. I turned and looked at the basement one last time. The dark hole that had swallowed me for 3 days stared back. I did not want to go back inside it, but I was afraid of what waited outside. We walked through my house like strangers. Every step crunched on broken glass. The front door was hanging from one hinge. The sky outside was the color of dirty cotton. The street did not look like my street. One house was missing its roof. Another leaned sideways like a tired old man. Smoke rose from somewhere nearby. A car lay on its side, its windows blown out, its tires melted into the road. People moved like ghosts. Some carried bags. Some carried children. Some carried nothing at all, just their fear on their faces. A woman sat on the curb holding a shoe and rocking back and forth. I asked Farhad, what happened to my son? He did not answer right away. He left early, he said finally. Many people did. The roads were madness. We lost contact with most families. I nodded, but inside me, something folded in on itself. At the shelter, they gave me water. I drank too fast and choked. My hand shook so badly that half of it spilled down my chin. They gave me a piece of dry bread. I held it for a long time before biting it. I did not trust it. I was afraid if I ate it, it would disappear like a dream. When I finally chewed, my teeth hurt. I stayed in the shelter that night with strangers. We lay on thin mats in a room that smelled of sweat and smoke. Every time a jet passed overhead, people flinched in the same moment like one body. I did not sleep. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the sound of breathing around me. Somewhere a child whispered, "Mama." Somewhere a man prayed aloud. Somewhere someone sobbed quietly into a sleeve. I held my phone in my hand, watching the dark screen. No messages, no calls. In the morning, I tried to go back to my house. They told me it was not safe. I went anyway. The street was quieter, too quiet, like after a storm when everything looks wrong but still. I stood in front of my gate and felt like I was looking at someone else's life. My door was open. Inside, dust floated in the sunlight like tiny ghosts. A crack ran through the ceiling like a scar. The mirror in the hallway had fallen, and I saw myself in broken pieces. One eye, half a mouth, a line of gray hair. I went to the kitchen and found the kettle upside down. The bread on the counter was hard as stone. I sat in my chair and waited. For my son. For a knock. For the sound of his key in the lock. The day passed. Then another. I rationed the little food I could find. I drank water from the tap when it worked. When it didn't, I drank from bottles Farhad brought me. Every time I heard a car outside, I stood up. Every time it was not him, I sat back down. On the 4th day, the phone rang. I grabbed it so fast it slipped from my hand. "Mother," Reza said. His voice sounded far away. "Thank God. I am alive," I said. "Where are you?" "We made it out," he said. "The children are safe. My wife's sister's house is crowded, but we are okay." I closed my eyes. "Come get me," I said again. Silence. Mother, he breathed out slowly. They are still bombing some areas. The roads are dangerous. I can't risk the children. And me? I asked. There was no answer that time. I hid alone for 3 days, I said. I thought I would die in my own house. I didn't leave you, he said quickly. I will come back when I can. When? I asked. Soon, he said. Soon is a word people use when they do not know. After the call, I sat very still. I did not cry. I felt something colder than tears. I began to understand something terrible. I was no longer the person being rescued. I was the person being postponed. The jets returned that night. I went back into the basement, not because I wanted to, but because I knew how to survive there. And survival had become my only job. The basement no longer felt like a prison. It felt like a habit. I took my blanket and flashlight and went down the stairs slowly, the way you descend into old age, careful not to fall, careful not to hope too much. The air smelled the same, damp, dust, and something sour from the walls. I closed the door and sat in my old place against the concrete. Above me, the sky kept tearing itself apart. Jets screamed. Explosions followed. Silence came after, like a question with no answer. I counted again. 1 breath for each year I had lived. 72 breaths. Then I started over. My body had learned fear. It knew when the bombs were close by the way a dog knows when thunder is coming. My bones shook before the sound reached me. My hands curled into fists without my permission. I thought of my son's voice on the phone. Soon. Soon had already passed. I whispered to myself, he will come. But the basement did not believe me. On the 5th day, the world above went quiet for hours. No jets, no blasts, just a strange stillness that pressed on my ears. I opened the basement door a little and climbed halfway up the stairs. The house was standing, but it was wounded. Cracks had spread like spiderwebs along the walls. The ceiling drooped in one corner. The air was heavy with smoke from somewhere far away. Sunlight came through the broken window and painted the floor in sharp lines. I stood there and felt like a ghost walking through my own life. I went to the bedroom and opened the wardrobe. My dresses hung like tired women waiting for a bus that would never come. I chose one at random and put it on, not because I needed clean clothes, but because I wanted to feel like a person again. In the living room, I sat in my chair and touched the armrest where my husband used to rest his hand. For a moment, I imagined him beside me, complaining about the noise. They have no manners, he would say. Even more should knock before entering. I almost laughed. Outside, I heard voices. I pushed the door open and stepped into the street. Farhad was there again, with 2 women and a boy whose arm was wrapped in dirty cloth. You should not be alone, he said when he saw me. We are moving people farther out of the city. Trucks will come. Will my son come? I asked him. Farhad looked away. They are saying families should leave if they can, he said. Old people sometimes they wait. Wait. That word again. The women took the boy away. Farhad lingered. Come with us to the school shelter, he said. At least there is food. I shook my head. If my son comes and I am not here. He understood without me finishing. That night, I dreamed I was knocking on my own door. Inside, I could hear my family laughing. I knocked and knocked, but no one opened it. When I woke up, my pillow was wet. The next morning, a bomb fell close enough to throw me against the wall. The house cried out like a wounded animal. Plaster fell on my hair. A cupboard collapsed. I crawled back into the basement and pressed my face into the blanket. I don't want to die here, I said to the dark. I thought of the woman on the curb with the shoe. I thought of the boy with the bandaged arm. I thought of how many stories were ending without witnesses. That afternoon, I heard shouting. Not fear shouting. Calling. Is anyone alive in this house? A man's voice. Then another. I climbed the stairs and opened the door. 2 soldiers stood in the street. Their faces were young, their eyes too old. There is an evacuation convoy tonight, one of them said. We are clearing this area. I cannot walk far, I said. One of them nodded. We will help you. They gave me an hour. I packed a small bag. My husband's photograph. My prayer beads. A sweater. My phone. I left the rest of my life behind. As I stepped out of the house, I looked back once. The doorway framed the darkness inside like a mouth that had swallowed too much. I whispered, "Forgive me." The truck was crowded with strangers. We sat close, knees touching, breaths mixing. No one spoke. We all listened for the sky. When we reached the outskirts, they let us off near a school turned into a shelter. Rows of people lay on the floor like fallen leaves. They gave me soup. It tasted like water pretending to be food. Days passed there. No news. No call. I lined up for meals. I slept on a thin mat. I learned the sound of other people's crying in the night. One evening, a woman asked me, "Are you waiting for someone?" "Yes," I said. "Me too," she said. We did not ask each other who. On the 9th day, my phone rang again. I saw my son's name. I answered without breathing. "Mother," he said, "we are safe. The children are asking for you." "Then come," I said. "Please." There was traffic in his voice again. Wind. Movement. "We may go farther south," he said. "It is safer there." "And me?" "We will send someone for you," he said. "I promise." Promises are light. They float easily away. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling of the school gym. I realized something that frightened me more than the bombs. If I died now, my son would remember me as the woman who waited, not the woman who raised him, not the woman who carried him through sickness, not the woman who fed him when there was little, just the old woman who stayed behind. The thought burned inside me. I did not want to be a shadow in his story. I wanted to be alive in it. And in the dark, surrounded by breathing strangers and distant thunder, I made a decision I had been afraid to make. If my son would not come for me, I would go to him, even if the road was broken, even if my legs were weak, even if fear walked beside me, because waiting had almost killed me. And I was not done living yet. The morning I decided to leave, the sky was the color of old paper. Not blue, not gray, something tired in between. I tied my scarf tightly under my chin and stood at the edge of the shelter yard, watching people climb into trucks, cars, anything that still moved. Engines coughed like sick animals. Somewhere, a baby wailed without stopping, as if it already knew the road was cruel. I had no car. I had no plan. Only a name and a direction. "My son is south," I told the man organizing the convoy. "I must go that way." He looked at me the way people look at walls they cannot climb. "We are full," he said. "Next convoy is tomorrow." "Tomorrow is too late," I said. He sighed and waved me forward. "Sit in the back. If we are stopped, you get off." I climbed into a truck between a woman holding a sack of clothes and a boy who stared at the floor. The truck smelled of dust and sweat and fear. When it started moving, my heart beat faster than the engine. The road out of the city looked like a body after surgery. Cut, stitched, cut again. Burned cars lined the sides. Buildings leaned toward each other as if whispering secrets. At one checkpoint, soldiers waved us through without looking at our faces. I kept my hand on my phone the whole time. No signal. We drove for hours, or maybe only one. Time still did not behave. At a bend in the road, The truck stopped suddenly. The driver shouted something. People stirred. A distant boom rolled across the hills like slow thunder. "We cannot go farther," the driver said. "Bridge is damaged." Some people stayed. Some got down and walked. I got down. My legs shook as soon as they touched the ground. The earth felt too wide after the shelter floor. I tightened my grip on my bag and began walking with the others, following the road as it curved south like a question mark. Each step felt like borrowing from tomorrow. I rested when I had to. On stones, on broken concrete. Once, on the shadow of a sign that said nothing. A man offered me water. A girl gave me half an orange. A woman walked beside me for a while without speaking. When she left, she touched my arm as if passing me courage. By evening, we reached a small village that had not yet learned it was part of the war. Chickens crossed the road. A man sold bread from a window. I bought one with shaking hands and ate it slowly like a ceremony. That night, I slept in a mosque with other travelers. The floor was cold. The ceiling was high. I dreamed of doors opening. In the morning, my phone buzzed. One bar of signal appeared, like a miracle. I dialed my son. "Mother," he said. His voice sounded closer than before. "Reeler." "I am coming," I said. "Do not move." There was silence. Then, "Where are you?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I am walking toward you." Something broke in his breathing. "We will come to meet you," he said. "Stay where you are." I waited in the village square under a tree that had lost half its leaves. Old men played cards on a crate. Children kicked a plastic bottle. Life was pretending to be normal. 2 hours later, a dusty car stopped in front of me. I knew it before the door opened. My son got out first. He looked thinner, older. His beard had grown wild. For a second, we just stared at each other like strangers who shared a face. Then he said, "Mother," and I was not 72 anymore. I was the woman who held him the day he was born. He wrapped his arms around me. His body shook. I felt his tears soak into my scarf. "I thought," he whispered. "I thought." "I know," I said. "I know." His wife stood behind him with the children. They looked at me like I had risen from a grave. The youngest ran forward and hugged my legs. "I missed you, Grandma," she said. I touched her hair. "I missed you too." In the car, as we drove away from the city, the road unrolled like a long story finally being read aloud. Fields replaced rubble. Trees replaced smoke. The sky slowly remembered how to be blue. We did not talk much. We listened to the sound of distance growing between us and the bombs. At their new house, my son showed me a small room. "You can stay here," he said, "as long as you want." That night, I lay on a mattress near a window. No jets, no explosions, only insects singing. I stared at the ceiling and waited for fear to come. It did not. Instead, something else came. A tiredness so deep it felt like sinking into warm water. In the morning, my son made tea the way his father used to. Too strong, too sweet. We sat together at a small table. "I am sorry," he said suddenly. "I left you." I looked at him. "You ran to save your children," I said. "That is what sons do when they become fathers. But you were alone." "Yes," I said. "And I survived." He lowered his eyes. "I will never forgive myself." I reached across the table and took his hand. "Then do not waste that feeling," I said. "Use it to remember me while I am alive." Days passed. News came and went like bad weather. Sometimes we heard distant thunder that was not thunder. Sometimes the power went out. Sometimes the phone lines died again. But every morning, I woke up breathing. I helped with the children. I swept the floor. I told them stories at night. One evening, my granddaughter asked, "Grandma, were you scared?" I thought of the basement, of the dark, of the voice calling my name. "Yes," I said. "Very." "Did you think you would die?" "Yes," I said. "What did you think about?" I looked at her small face, so serious in the lamplight. "I thought about how I wanted to be remembered," I said. "Not as someone who waited, but as someone who walked." She nodded as if this made sense. Now, when I close my eyes, I still hear Jet sometimes. But I also hear footsteps coming down the stairs, calling my name. I was 72 when the bombs hit Tehran. My son ran to save his family and left me in the house. I hid in a basement for 3 days with no food, listening to the sky fall apart, thinking I would die forgotten. But I did not. I walked out of the dark, and I found my way back into my own story. So if you are listening to me now, remember this. War can take houses. It can take cities. It can take years from your face. But it does not get to decide who you are. Not if you keep moving. Not if you keep calling your own name. Not if you refuse to disappear quietly. I am still here. And every morning I wake up, I say it out loud. I am still here.